Rigsters here, back with a new series on Forza Horizon 5. I'm doing a different tuning idea. I'm going to try to cover every single car in Forza Horizon 5, but tune them for road race and make them one step above where they are stock. So what does that mean? Well, I'm starting in manufacturer alphabet order, and the first one to start with is Acura. In particular, I'm just going to start with the front-wheel drive 2002 Acura RSX Type S. This is quite a mouthful. So basically, I got the idea, it's like, let's try something different for not just the channel, but just to try something different for content. I thought this would be a cool idea. I haven't really fully decided what course to really test the cars in particular, but I will say that it's going to be an interesting journey, and we'll just get right into it. So, what we will do is I'll start with the brakes, and since it starts at Class C, we'll keep it within Class B as an example. And it's going to create some interesting and weird tunes, that's for sure. At the very least, it also might learn some new stuff with tuning along the way. Obviously, putting in, everything to street is pretty straightforward for a lot of cars, but they might behave differently. And I'm kind of curious to see, with making certain choices and sacrifices with my normal tune setups to make the car stay within one class above where it normally starts with, could create for some interesting dilemmas as well. Like, for example, I already hit a wall with the weight reduction. Because if I go from that to normally race weight reduction, I go from 598 to 631, which will not lead me to do a lot of tire tuning. Although losing 450 pounds on a car is really worth it, I'm going to actually do the sport weight reduction instead. That way it gives me some room to modify the tires. Let's see what I can put on sport tires here. If we do semi-slicks, 674, 649. Yeah, that's like a increase of like almost 60 points. So we'll do sport tire compound. This is front wheel drive. We'll maximize the front tire width because it does the steering and where most of the power goes, not all of it. And for the rear, we'll increase it to maximum as well. The track width will increase by one step for the rear and the front. And let's go to drivetrain and max up the clutch. Now for transmission, I usually will just do race transmission. I normally pick 7-speed, but to keep it more interesting, a lot of cars in this game usually are with the race transmission will keep the stock amount of gears they come with, so it becomes a little more comparable. And then for the driveline, let's maximize that out. So we use 11.8 pounds. That's good. Differential is always important. The race differential, which is going to be on 100% of all the cars I'm going to be doing for this series. So that's going to be like a broken record. Now, engine's going to be different. It's going to depend on, one, how much power I get, and also how to keep it within Class B. For example, if we do the valves, I always like doing maximum exhaust, but in this case, I'm actually going to do the sport exhaust to keep it within Class B. And the intake, well, that's about it. Can I reduce the weight a little more with the flywheel? No, that puts it to A. So, let's do the summary here. So, this is where it starts out when you view the basket. This is what it will cost to do this kind of tune. This is tuned more for grip than raw power, which is going to be most of the builds, depending on how much points I have to play with. It's going to cost 35,300 credits to buy and install the parts, which I'll do sell. So it's a decrease from 2,820 to 2,518 pounds. Gained 43 horsepower and 0.2 lateral Gs. And now we'll go to custom tuning real quick here. And make the tire pressures start at even, make them 30-30. Tune the gearbox to 430 gears. Alignment's good. Might increase the rear roll bar stiffness to 25. Springs look good. Not going to mess with dampening. Brakes it might eventually. Now, for differentials for front-wheel drive cars, it's going to be a little tricky because it's the opposite of what you do for rear-wheel drive, which you use a little bit of higher values, not like ridiculous amount, but you don't want to. I'm going to start with like 15-15 with front-wheel drive. In Horizon 5, it changed a little bit, so you actually sometimes want to do even lower values of the A cell and D cell, so you don't understeer too much, but you don't want to do so low where it's just pretty much worthless, where it's just like an open diff and you have no locking. So it's a balance you have to do, and we'll find out. All right, I think a good race to test this car is the Descanar Dorado Sprint. So I'm going to create a new blueprint, which I'll show you how to do it real quick. It's pretty easy, actually. I do, typically for car themes, I do anything goes. And I make it to what the car restriction is. In this case, it's a Class B car, so I restrict it to Class B. You can edit the name and add all sorts of stuff. I just name it something really generic, because it's just do B Class Any. The reason why I want to do that is for consistency as well. Because I want to do eventually is to have consistent car performance as well, so I need the same data driving the course. And it might also get me better at doing said course. I think, or trying to do a series of this, it's going to be kind of interesting, you know? It wants me to try different cars, and who knows? Maybe I'll learn some stuff along the way to share with you guys, or gals, for that matter. And also get to try some different tuning ideas that might be competitive, or at least fun to drive. Because tuning the car one class above what it normally is, typically I've noticed, at least in 4, which is the previous version of 5, obviously, usually don't drive that bad. You don't usually need a ton of different tuning to do, but they will behave differently because they'll have different values. And they'll react and do things differently. Like, for example, I probably could tune this car for a little more acceleration. It's a little bit slow for the gears. That's what I've noticed so far. Handling is pretty good. And since it's not making like monstrous amounts of power, and the way they changed how their how their performance icons work, or how they determine balance of performance, putting non-semi-slick tires on a lower horsepower car doesn't mean you instantly lose the race, you know what I mean? As for this car itself, it is a very famous, well, more famous car back then. I mean, it's still a very popular car these days. It's one of the last true hardcore hard driving coupes made by Acura. The Type S denoting that it's like really sporty. Had a high ribbon inline naturally aspirated 4, powered it through the front wheels with that VTEC, which allowed for high revs. They're actually pretty reliable cars is what I've heard. Very expensive and difficult to acquire now because they didn't import many to the United States in particular. But they have a really good following, and they're a very popular car for a good reason. Okay, let's see what the lap time is for the first car in this episode. 221.85. So a 221.85 for the first time of this series of doing a B-Class front-wheel drive car with some minimal tuning, and tuning it from C-Class to B-Class. So, that is the first car I'm going to do for this particular video and series. Overall, this car, from that short drive, drove pretty well. I would say it just needs probably a little bit of tweaking in the gear ratios. It might need a little bit of fine-tuning with the suspension as well, because it could be tuned out a little bit, but it's not bad for not doing a whole lot to it outside of those parts and some tunes. And with these tires, the grip's pretty good. It's a very controllable car. It's not particularly fast, so lower horsepower cars for this particular sprint, I've noticed, are probably going to struggle to put down really good lap times. But that is it for this particular car, and first car to start this manufacturer A to Z series. If you wish to support the channel, I do run a Ko-Fi page down in the description link below, and I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Rigsters Journey, signing off.